Alright, welcome everyone to the third episode of Geometry Dash 2.2 Editor Tutorials. In this video, we are going to be talking about the area trigger. The area trigger is very important. It's somewhat hard to use, but once you know how to use one of them, you will probably know how to use the rest. They only have a few different settings in them. And in today's video, I'm going to go in depth about how to work with these area triggers, because there are a lot of area triggers and all of them are different and all of them do different things. And I have used area triggers in my level and they are very helpful. They are very good for optimization. They can do things that would normally take you hours to do in matter of minutes or perhaps even seconds if you know how to use these features. And I think this is mostly important for platformer mode. However, I would say it's probably like 30% good for normal game mode and 70% is good for platformer mode. So I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of what this area trigger even does. So if you go on to my level, if you go on to the end, you can see this. You see these platforms, they're all moving up and down. And you may say, well, this doesn't really require an area trigger. You can just move them up and down individually and then you can just make it loop. And yes, I'm going to make a video about looping and how to make structures go up and down or left or right in here. And this is a way, like doing it manually with the triggers, with like the move trigger, is actually a very bad way to do it. There is a very much easier, much simpler, much faster way to do this. And today I'm gonna show you how. And you can see here, I used it in here and also in there. And it's actually not that hard to use once you get your hands on like the very basic stuff. And the reason why this is so important is if you go onto the help tab and we go on to links and we go on to the rating system. This basically shows you what is good in their level and what makes a level good, you know, how can you be a modder and stuff like that. And if we go on and search for example, triggers, there we go. We have, here is like the chapter, how to get a rated level. And if we scroll down, we can see that your level should perform well, level with high density of objects. They are less likely to get rated and stuff like that. Optimization, performance, very important. And at the end, we have try to optimize your level's performance by not wasting objects and using triggers in a smart way. Now, you could do what I have done already in this part, which would take 8 different triggers that you would have to loop. However, you can do all of this with a simple area move trigger. And this is just because the objects are moving up and down. So let's now start. There are actually 3 groups of area triggers, and I'm just going to label them in here so you guys know exactly what the heck is going to go on in this video, because it's going to be quite long, I feel like, because there are a lot of them, and I do want to talk about every single one of them. Perhaps, I don't know. We're going to have to see. So let's call this the first area trigger. Boom. Now we have labeled them. There are 3 groups. These guys do almost the same thing, but they just change how the trigger is labeled. And this one is also completely different. Also, that one is completely different. So let's start with the very first one. Let's start off very basic. As I said, this is going to be a very beginner friendly tutorial. So what you want to do is, firstly, you want to think about, what do I want to do? So what these triggers do is basically they change the properties of objects depending on how far they are from a certain object that you specify. It could be the player, it could be anything else. And the property that is being changed could be the move, the position, the rotation, the scale, the fade, the tint, the color and stuff like that. So let's just start with a very simple example, okay? We're gonna start off by making a block like that. And we're gonna give it a group ID of 1. Now this guy has a group ID of 1. And next up, you wanna specify a center object. And I like to use these guys as the center objects, for example, like this hexagon. You can place it anywhere you want, and you can also use like any of these guys, you know, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna use this one. And you make sure that it's like above the screen so that the player doesn't really see it. Or you can just make it invisible by going to hide. But we're just going to make it visible so you guys can see the effect. So we have, this is group 1 and this one is group 2. We just assigned the group to this. And now you want to add the area move trigger. We're going to start with the area move trigger, which basically moves the platform depending on how far it is from this single thing. And it doesn't really have any effect if this one doesn't move. So for example, if I said, so let me just enter to the area trigger. And at first it looks very, very complicated. I know these things don't make any sense to you. And so many of these things just are so difficult to understand. And today we're going to actually be talking about every single one of them. So the first thing that you want to do is look at your object that you want to move or, rotate, scale, or whatever. So this time we want to move this block upwards, okay? So we're going to go to this area move trigger. We want to click on edit object and go to the second tab. And then the target object ID is 1. This is the block. And the center, like I said, is 2. This is the center. This hexagon up here is group 2. And that one is group 1. So this is 1 and then 2. And for now, I want you guys to ignore everything that's in here. Ignore all of these things. I know they look absolutely ridiculous, but just ignore them. Everything that we need for now are only these 2 things. I'm going to talk about all of these other settings in a bit, but for now, let's just take a look at these 2. And in the area move trigger, there are only 2 tabs in here. So now you want to move on to the second tab, or which is actually the first tab. And let's just ignore this whole set on the right, okay? I'm going to explain it all, but for now, let's just ignore it so things get like a little bit more simple. And I'm also going to use the XY mode because this is way easier to explain. However, I'm going to go over the, what do you call it? Like this move distance, move angle, relative, and R fade and stuff like that. So let's just for now move to XY mode. So other than these 2 important things, you want to specify where do you want to move these blocks and also how far should these blocks be for the effect to take place. So for example, let's say we want to move these guys upwards, right? So we want to move it on the Y30. So 30 upwards, 1, 2, 3. It's going to move like that. This is the maximum basically. If this guy reaches in here, because this is like on the X, let's just take a look on the X axis. So if you want to take a look at the X axis, I'm just going to use this one. I'm just going to use this one for now. Ignore this all. I'm going to explain it in a bit, but let's just say this is the default option, okay? So how far is this block from these guys? So if this block is in here, then all of them are going to be instantly like that. However, if it goes farther away like that, it's slowly going to go down and down and down and down. Look at this. I'm going to show you. So let's just place it in here, okay? And then you want to specify a length. I'm just going to use 10. For now, the length isn't really that relevant. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. So now it's instantly going to move up by 30. You see? And now if you move this guy like that, now nothing happens because the length is set to be 10. And you can specify the length, for example, let's use 20. And now it's going to have like a small effect because it's still like, look at this. If this is the center, this is 0. And this length is 10. And this length is 20 and so on. And other way around also. This is 0. This one is 1. This one is 2. So 10, 20 and stuff like that. So now, if we want to see this live, what we want to do is actually move this. While you are playing, we want to move it like that. So we can see this whole object going up and then down. Okay? So let's just add a simple move trigger that is going to move this guy to the right. Let's say by, I don't know, like 60. So we want to move group 2 to 60 to the right. And we're going to make this like 2 so you guys can see the effect slowly. Make sure to put the area trigger before this move trigger. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit weird. Because we want to first apply the area effect and then we want to move it. Alright, now if we click on play, you can see that it's moving up and then down. This is because, like I said, it's just the distance. And you can specify this. So for example, I have put in here 20. So once this is in here, the effect starts to play. Look at this. If I make this 5, let me make it really slow. Now it happens and now nothing. And now it stops. Right at the 20. So you can make this, for example, 30. And I'm just gonna title this actually. Let me just do it 0. And this one's gonna be 1. And this one's gonna be 2. This is basically 0, 10, 20, and this one's gonna be 30. And the same way the other way around. So this time, this one is 30. So instantly it's gonna take effect, slowly go up, and then go down until it reaches that line and then it stops. You can move it further. You can move it to like 100. And it doesn't really make any sense because it's gonna, once it's past that 30, nothing is gonna happen. Let's just get back to 60. And also we want to edit the area move because I think now you guys pretty much understand what this area move does. So I want to flip it. Okay, let's just start with these simple ones. These look complicated, but they are really not that complicated. So let's click on this one. This is basically reversed. What just happened is just going to be the same, but reversed. Look at this. Now it's up, 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 and then it's slowly going down, and now it's going up, 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 up. So what just happened is basically this exact same thing, but the opposite. So if this is here, then this platform is going to be way down. Look at this. It's like slowly going down, and now it's going up, 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 up. Okay, this is, I think, very simple. All of you guys should understand this. And if you go on here, you can set all of these guys. And if you take a look on the actual symbol of it, you can see that from the center, it goes outwards from the center on this like y-axis line. It goes to the right and also to the left. You can make it only go to the right. Let's say if we only make it go to the right, how would that look like? Look at this. You see? And now it doesn't do any effect. So where this arrow is pointed at, this is where you don't want to have an effect. Let's say we use this one. Look at this. Now it's going to be the complete opposite of that. So now it basically is up and then goes slowly down the closer this guy gets to 0. So, and you can go a little bit more crazy with this. And this is basically just the same thing as, you know, the X, but then it's going to be like completely flipped like that on the Y. And it doesn't really make any sense because then we should probably move it downwards instead of that. Let's do -60. You see how they are all moving up and then slowly moving down. It makes more sense to do this like that. They should move rather to the right and then slowly come back like that. I think this is very, very understandable for now. So yeah, these guys, they all do the same. This is like the opposite, and this is only one side, and this is like the opposite side. And this one, these two are basically the same as this and this at the same time. So this is actually a little bit more interesting if you go deeper into, but first thing I want to do is tell you that you can actually select this, copy and paste it like that, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, and they all can have the group ID of 1. And this one is still gonna take effect. Look at this. Okay, so I'm just gonna revert it back to move 60 to the right, and the area moves should be moving upwards. And now look at this. Oh yeah, let's also change this one. We want to get it back to that guy. And now it's going to like slowly move up. Every single one of them is moving independently. So every single one of them has like a property of how far it is from this guy. This makes more sense to have like a grid instead if you want to use X and Y for this one. And look at this. For now, you can see how the closer this guy is to them, the more upwards they go. Let's say we move it diagonally. Let's say we want to move it like that, you know? So we want to move it to the right 60 and to the bottom 60. Now look at this. The closer you are to them on the X and also on the Y, the more they will move to the top. This makes more sense if you use the not XY mode. This basically, we earlier specified that it should move upwards the closer you are to it. But now we want to make it so that it moves away from that object. Look at this. I'm just going to make it and then you guys are going to understand. Look at this. They are all moving away from it. You see how they are all just getting out of here. And you can make this a lot bigger to see the actual effect. You see they're all getting out of here. And yeah, works very, very fine. And you can also specify the angle, which basically just says, okay, you go to the top left now instead of, you know, to the different direction. And you can also make it relative, which means it all just moves away from that object. So the angle doesn't really matter anymore because you are setting the option to be relative. So every single object is going to be independently moving. Look at this. They are all basically, get out of here. I don't want to see you. They're all moving away from it. And this is something that cannot be achieved without the area trigger. Doing this without the area trigger is going to be impossible. So you guys now understand that this one is basically just going away from it. This and this at the same time. However, let's go to the opposite one. And now they are all going to come closer to it. And it looks absolutely insane. You don't really know what the heck is going on. So I would suggest just going a little bit low on this so you can see the effect. You see how it is. The closer you are, so if we stop it like that, let's stop it exactly where this object is. You can see now it's back at its place. Look at this. Now it's right here. If we stop it, for example, in here, now this object is right where it was supposed to be. So the exact same effect, but the opposite thing. And now this one, and also that one, and also that one. Okay, now they are all basically just moving away from it. And you can, oh, bro, this is so long. There's still so much that I want to talk about. So let's say this is not the center object. Okay, let's set the player as the center object. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna select all of them and make them no touch so that you cannot touch them. And now it's gonna have an effect on the player. You see, this is like how far are these blocks from the player, and the setting is gonna change according to what you put here. So if you say, for example, the closer the player is, move them upwards. Look at this. Or downwards, because we have that other option enabled. So you can like flip it. And now the closer you are, the more away they're going to go, which looks kind of cool. And you can like move up in here as well. And it works very, very fine. And you can also set the length. Now you guys can also see what the length is. So how far should the effect take place? How far should the difference be between the center object and the target object for the effect to take place? You can also do player 2, which is just the second player when you are playing on duel. C is the center of the screen. So look at this. Now the center is in here, basically. It's going to take effect on the center of the screen. I don't think this is that useful. I can't see myself using the center as like for that area trigger, but perhaps some people would. I don't really know. And BL is bottom left. So bottom left of the screen. Look at this. The closer I am, now they are closer to the bottom left of the screen. Bro, there are so many things you can do with this. It's insane. Okay, so this is bottom left. This is center left. This is top left. So B stands for bottom. C stands for center. T stands for top. L stands for left. And R, which you can see here, stands for right. So top, left. BC is basically bottom center, so like there where the OK is, like at the very bottom. And TC is top center, right here where the move is. And bottom right is the bottom right corner. CR is bottom, like here, the center right. The top right is the top right corner. And you have all of them in here. They look complex, but they really are not. It's just shortcuts for long names. So let's use the player for now, and let's continue with these things. So let's say now we have the effect. It all works fine. The closer you are on the X and also on the Y, the more they're gonna move upwards. And now let's reduce the length. Okay, now we're gonna have like, okay, now the length is a lot less. So the distance that you need to have between you and these blocks is way less. Now you have to get very, very close for the effect to take place. And I think for this one, I'm probably going to only use that one, so that this way, everything that's on the same x-axis is going to have the same options. So this looks very cool now. And I also want to mess with the offset. The offset is basically how much offset do you want to have from that cube. Let's say we want to take the effect not exactly where player 1 is, but like 10 blocks to the right. So you see the player right now is in here. The effect is actually going to take place 10 blocks to the right of the player. So this is the player. It's going to take place exactly in here, as if your player was in there. Look at this. So if you play, you see, now they think that I'm here, you know, like it's like 10 blocks to the right. And you can also do to the left by adding a negative. And you can see that this is initially where they think that my cube is. So now I think let's move on to the plus and minus, and this basically just specifies the randomness of the option that you put there. So for example, let's say you put, I want to move them 30. Okay, this is like the default one. I want to move them 30 to the top. However, I also want to add or subtract 10 to it. So this value is either going to be 30 or it's going to be 30 minus 10, so that would be 20, or it's going to be 30 plus 10, so that's 40. So it's going to be between 20 and between 40. So it's going to be a random number between these two. And you can increase this one, for example, make it 20, and now it's between 50 or between 10. And you can go on as you want. It's basically random. Let's put it on 10. Now this is going to have a random effect on all of these ones. So look at this. It's going to be very, very random now. You see?
The distance is now very random. Some of them want to move a lot and some of them not. And this is something that I can see myself using for a very cool explosion, which I don't know if I'm going to do it in this video, but it's not that hard to set up, but we're gonna have to see. Let's say we want to move 30 and also 30 randomness. Now it's gonna be, some of them are not gonna move at all, and some of them want to move like a lot, because 30 plus 30 is 60, and that's a lot, and 30 minus 30 is 0, so they're not gonna move at all. It depends really on what seed you get. It's all random, all of these guys. And the X is the same thing. The X and also the randomness. This is basically the same thing on what the option on the left says. So this is offset. Offset is, like I said, where how far should the effect take place away from your player or the center object that you put. And you have the randomness. You can do negative and also plus. And the length is also something like that. Let's just keep this at 30 and also a random length, let's say. So now we have 10 and 10, and now your distance really doesn't have to be the same. So you can see here, you see this one object in here, it doesn't move at all because its length is not set to be this close like that. It's not really close. So it's just not moving anymore. And if you play another time, it's going to move. So now this guy doesn't move. It's just all random basically. And yeah, you can specify the length. I think this is now very understandable. So I think this one is also understandable, the move distance. This is just moving away from you, moving 28 away from you. And for this effect, I would recommend using that one. And also use relative, so it basically is all independent on your player. And now they are all basically going to move away from me. And you can also do the length a lot, so this way you have more effect. Look at this. Oh my god, this looks so cool. They're all like moving away on the X and also on the Y. So yeah, I think this is all understood. You can also add R fade. This one basically just specifies how smooth the effect should be. So let's use 0 and let's just save the effect in your memory. Look at this. You see how this effect is playing. And now let's just add 60. I think you guys can also explore with that. And now it looks way different. So I don't know how exactly you should call this option, but this is what it does. So yeah. And now let's move on to the easings. Let's say we want to still move it to the top if you get closer to it by adding this one also like that. Now, yes, like that is very cool. And now we want to add some easings. So the easings are, you can add an ease in and also ease out. So let's say ease in, we want to do a elastic out, like a very fast one at the beginning and then get slow. And then we want to have a bounce. Actually, let's do back out. Back out is also cool. So now it's going to go up very fast and it's going to have like this back out effect. It's not really visible. Actually, you can see it down there. You see how they initially should return in here, but you see how they're going to come like that and slowly come back. You see this effect? And you can also make it like, I think bounce out is going to be a better one. Look at this now. They're going to like basically, they're like falling like that. And you can change the length. I think it makes a better effect. Yeah, now it's way better. You guys can see it, how they are like all falling, boom, boom, boom. And yeah, this is basically the ease in and ease out. I think you guys know what ease in and ease out should be. So now let's move on to the second page, which has a lot more things now. I just realized that this video is way too long. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all of these triggers because the first one is already taking like, how long is this video already? Like 20 minutes or something. So we're probably going to do the rest on a different video, but we're going to have to see. I mean, I know that the second row, like this one is really, really useful. Like if I wanted to do something in my level and I was crying that something like this didn't exist. But then I realized it does actually exist. And I was so happy because otherwise that would have, the effect would have been absolutely garbage that I wanted to make. But these effects are also very, very useful. So let's actually now move on to the second page. This is the page. And you can see if you click on these guys or on this one, the offset Y is going to go away. And this is because this one is usually only going to have an offset of X because it's like, it only has an effect on the X axis. And this one's only going to have on Y, so we're going to have to set it in here. However, if you want to have X and Y, X is going to be in here and Y is going to be in here. So, okay, let's get to this madness. So I think the offset you guys already know what it is. The offset Y is basically how far it should be from the player. If this is your center object, how far up and down basically for the effect to take place. So let's now just use this one. We are back at this effect where they basically move away from you upwards. So we're just going to edit the mod front. We're just going to make it both 0. Now actually, let's make them all 10. Let's make them all 10. And now you can see that the effect basically only slowly takes place when you are very, very close to it, even though we have set the length to be 70. So this is basically how squished in the effect should take place, like how, the length, how squished in it should be, like that. So now, even though the length is a lot, the effect still takes place when you are very, very close to it. So you can set the mod back and mod front, and I wouldn't really play around with these guys. So now it's on the front, it has a lot of, effect, but on the back, it doesn't. So this is mod front and mod back. I don't really use this option, but if you think this is important, then you could. And then we have the dead zone. The dead zone is basically a radius. The radius of your player, or you can say the distance of how or when this effect is just going to stop having an effect. Look at this. So if you have the dead zone as what it is, what is it? It's 0.3 now, and you can see that they all basically stop moving when you get to a certain distance, and they all are going to come back. So this is basically a dead zone. You can see that there is like somewhat of a radius around the player. I think this is very, very understandable also. Let's use a higher one. Let's do 1. Oh, now the effect is very, very visible. You can see the radius and what this also has of an effect. So let's keep this at 0 also. And now we have all of these guys. You guys know what this is. You guys have mastered this page also. So now let's move on to the effect ID. The effect ID is basically just like the group ID and the item ID and all of these things. So this is an effect ID. So the first thing I want to do is just click on this one. It's gonna, give you the next free effect ID, which for you, if this is the first time you do it, it's gonna give you 1. So the effect ID is gonna be 1. Let me just do this one, and now it should nothing is gonna change when you do effect ID 1. This is important for if you wanna stop the area trigger. You want to use this area stop, which is located in here. Area stop, and you can stop it by the effect ID. So this has the effect ID of 1, and we're going to do 1 like that. Actually, let's do on touch trigger. So if you touch this trigger, it's going to stop having effect. Look at this. There's effect the whole time, and then I touch it, and now there's no more effect. This is because I specified this to be the effect ID of 1, and then I stopped effect ID of 1. You can copy this. Okay, now we're just going to get a little bit more complex. And now let's say we want to have one area trigger move them upwards, and the other one is going to move them away from you like that. And this one is going to have an effect ID of 2. So now we're going to have another area stop, which is going to stop 2 if you touch it. And this is effect ID 1, and this is effect ID 2. So now you see how they are moving away from you, and they are also moving upwards the closer you are to them. So now I don't want them to move up anymore, so I'm going to stop it, and now they just move away from you. And now I also don't want them to move away from me, so I disable both of them. And now we have the effect ID mastered. So this is basically important if you want to stop an area trigger, or if you want to edit an area trigger. What is this page, my dudes? The second page. This one, the second area trigger, these guys that you can find in here that have this like little rectangle in them. These are also having this effect ID in here, as you guys can see, which is also important for them. But this is probably going to be for the next video, because this is way too long now. But yeah. So what else do we have here? Let's see. Let's remove this one, and let's keep this one that basically moves them up the closer you are. And then we have the priority. Actually, we do want to have this now. We have the priority as one of the last options in here. We are almost done, my dudes. The priority is basically just which area trigger should have the priority. I think this is self-explanatory. So if you have two effects that apply on an object and you want to have a certain area trigger have the priority, you're going to set that to have the priority, and then the second effect is not going to take place because the higher priority is basically the one effect that's going to play. And okay, now we are done with all of this. And what's actually interesting, now that we get to ignore parent and ignore linked and DEAP, is that you can actually do all of this. Let's say you wanna, the closer you are, you want this whole thing to be one single object that moves up and down. So you can set all of this to group 1. However, you want to select one of these guys. I'm going to select the very center one. I'm going to click here and make it a group parent. This is going to make it pink. And you're going to have this star up here. If you have the show object info in here, you can see this one is only 1 and this one has a star in front of it. So this is a group parent is what we call it. And it's very, very important to know this. If you want to, mess with the, advanced follow trigger and stuff like that. It's also important for the area move. So now let's move this one. Let's just keep moving them upwards the closer you are to them and see how that effect is going to be. You see, now all of this is seen as one single object because we have a parent and the effect is only applying on the parent and all of them are basically following that parent. So now you can do ignore parent, and this is gonna basically ignore the fact that there is a parent and just basically move them upwards if there is no parent. This is very, very simple to explain. We have ignore linked. Ignore linked, I think, doesn't work because ignore linked was supposed to be if you have like this one and then you link it all, and you can basically, it's gonna have like the same effect as if it's all one object, but then you can disable it with this one, but it doesn't really work. So let's just ignore that one. I don't think it's that important because you can still do the ignore parent one. And now the final option, DEAP, which is explained in here, don't edit area parent. So this basically means that do you want it to also have an effect on the area parent itself? So this is the area parent, like I said, this one in the center. And if you, for example, let's have everything disabled, and now it's basically just moving up and down because there is a parent. And now you do ignore parent, so we want to move them individually like that. And now we want to also do don't edit area parent, and now basically we also got to do is disable that one also. So now everything gets edited except for the area parent, even though it also has the group ID of 1. I think this is also very self-explanatory. So yeah, I think this is all there is. Is there any more? We have explained all of this. We have explained anything else? Yeah, I think this is it. You can, like I said, make a center object. We can set it to 2 and come up with the great effect. So if you set it to 2, for example, I'm going to show you how I did that cool effect. We want to move them upwards by X and Y like that. And then you can move group 2. Group 2, we want to move it 60. With a very cool little, effect easing. And it seems like there's something wrong in here. Group 1 against group 2. Okay, now we have this cool effect. And of course, we have set the area parents. So we're going to do ignore. And now we have this cool little effect. Now I like to have this one as 50 or something like that. Just experiment with it. So let's do maybe a little bit less, like 30 or something. Now, the closer they are, the less effect they're going to have. Like that. Yeah, we want to move it a little bit more. We want to have like the perfect roundings a little bit more. And also it should be a little bit slower. So maybe 100. Like that. It moves slow. And then, yeah. It now goes like that. And now what we want to do is move it backwards instantly. You want to move it backwards instantly. And you do that by going to silent club step and minus 100. And now you select them all and then loop. And now you have this cool little effect of it goes to the right and then it goes instantly to the left. And now it starts going to the right again. And then this whole effect takes place. And if you want to disable the delay, you can do that in here. You want to delay this one, but not this one. This one should not delay like that. So now you have a cool little going like that. They're going up and down and they're going up and down again. And you can just edit this one. If you don't like the effect, you can you can move it upwards more. You can also do a mod front, mod back. You can do the length and stuff like that. So yeah, that is probably it for this video. I never expected this to be this long, but I really wanted to go deeper into every single option in here. And I also want to show you guys exactly what every single option does. And I know this video was a little bit more complex than usual, so let me know if you guys didn't understand something in the comment section. But yeah, I'm probably gonna also, you know, upload this as, let's call it move area trigger tutorial on my channel YcreatorGoal. So I'm gonna upload this, allow copy, no password, unlisted, and yeah, here's the ID if you guys want to check it out. Let's check it out. In here it is. Yeah. So this is okay. I'm gonna put the ID in the comment in the description, so you guys can also see for yourself. And yeah, you can make so much with the area move trigger. And I never expected this video to be this long anyway, but we're gonna move on to the next few ones in the next video. And I expect you guys to already know what the area move trigger does for the area rotate to understand, because I'm not gonna, you can see in the area rotate, there's the length, there's the offset, there's the mod back front, all of these guys, and also all of these guys, all you guys already know what every single one of them does. So I don't have to explain them again. So I can expect these videos to be probably all in one or something. I don't really know, but we're going to have to see how long that takes and if we're going to make these guys also. I am really, really excited for that also. And I also want to do I'm going to do the zoom. I'm going to tell you guys how to make good gameplay with the camera, because I've seen a lot of a lot of featured levels that don't use the camera, you know, settings correctly. And I also want to do I've also got a request on the reverse, on how you do the reverse one. If you use it once and then twice and then 3 times, and then the triggers kind of get messed up because you got to go use the channel and also the order, and it gets really, really messy. And also want to do, yeah, it just all depends on what you guys want next. I'm probably going to do another pool that you guys can tell me. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something new today. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.